Now it's blurred over as to what the difference is between war and peace. What are we talking about here? Doesn't matter. Government can move in at any time and take this over. Absolutely. How do you like that? And as we move up the line into the future, this article, by the way, several articles on this at Infowars.com, so you need to read those. As we move up the line into the future, which one of these articles points out, we're going to see more and more of this encroachment. You know, are we saying that tomorrow Obama is suddenly going to say, guess what, the entire transport industry of the United States is under control of the military, which is under my control? We're not saying that. The door is opening to this operation, which can move very quickly if a situation is provoked. Make no mistake about that. How about a phony epidemic? Boom. Now we got to take over. Okay, we're going to make a ring around this city. Yeah, we're going to quarantine Cincinnati. How about that? And the government is going to take over all aspects of business and industry that has any bearing on this city because we can, because we have this recent executive order. That's what we're talking about. All of this rolls up over time. It becomes more and more intrusive, invasive, and destructive. That's what this is about. While you're being distracted by all kinds of stories, this is what's happening. This is what's happening behind the scenes. Okay. So I gave you the stats on medical death in the United States. I could hammer that for the next 6 hours if I were on here, really. I mean, you know, they have to put me in restraints, so I don't do that because this is what people don't understand. But what lies up the road for you in this health insurance, national health insurance mandatory scheme, if it remains, is that you will be forced to take many of these drugs that kill people at this alarming rate in America every year. I mean, that's the bottom line as far as you and your family is concerned. Do you understand what I'm saying there? I mean, I hope you do. I hope you do. I hope you really do. Right? And then, of course, there's a question, well, wait, doesn't the FDA certify all new drugs as safe and effective? How could they allow these drugs that are killing people at the rate of 106,000 a year in the United States to enter into the mainstream and be prescribed by doctors? Because they're responsible for certifying these drugs as safe and effective. Well, there's a thing called faking medical reality, okay, which is connected with published studies on the safety and effectiveness of the drugs, and we'll be getting into how that reality is faked to make it look as if these drugs are safe and effective when actually they're maiming and killing people. I mean, maybe you don't think this is important. I think this is one of the most important things in the world. It's political, don't you see? It's political. It's not medical. It's not medical. You kill one person with a drug, 1,000 people, 100,000 people. That's political. And you better get used to understanding that. That's crossing the line from medical to political. That's murder. That's an operation, an ongoing operation to debilitate and destroy families, communities, people's lives, their children's lives in this country. That's what that is. Okay. I guess you understand that. I hope you do. I really do. I want to read you a quote here. This is from a woman named Marcia Angel, or Angel, MD, who was the editor of the New England Journal of Medicine, which is the most prestigious medical journal in the world. Okay, she was the boss over there for 2 decades. And this is what she writes. It is simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research that is published or to rely on the judgment of trusted physicians or authoritative medical guidelines. I take no pleasure in this conclusion, which I reached slowly and reluctantly over my 2 decades as an editor of the New England Journal of Medicine. It is simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research that is published. She means in her own journal, in other journals, mainstream, the most influential journals that dictate to the press what the press and media say about medicine and the effect of medicine on life in this country. It is no longer possible to believe the research that is published. This means research on drugs, new drugs, folks, on the drugs that these drug companies want to foist upon you. The research that they do that is printed in these journals that the FDA looks at, that turns out to be fake research. That's what she's saying. It's no longer possible to believe it because it's faked. I'll describe a little of that as we go on here. Okay, back to politics. What's happening in breaking news these days in the country? We have a race to the top, the horse race to the White House, right? We have the Republicans, we have the demos, we have no independents this time around that anybody can observe with a microscope. We have these people arguing among themselves and self-destructing and so on. Anyone speaking about any of this material that we're covering here today? No. Not that I'm aware of. Ron Paul, who's a doctor, may be speaking about some of it. Instead, what they're talking about is, I'm tough. No, I'm tougher. No, I'll be even tougher if you elect me. This is all mind control, folks. This is all about image making on all sides. Democrats, Republicans, who can put up the image that is going to click the counter in the brain of people and force them to go to the polls and say, this is the guy that I want. I mean, talk about current news. Have you been watching the debates as they play out over the last several months? It's all about operant conditioning, to condition citizens of this country who are voting into how to look at the faces that appear on the screen. Is it going to be a positive react or negative react? If the candidate says this in a certain kind of way, is it going to create a positive effect or a negative effect? And how about the makeup? And how about the suit? And how about the tie? And what is the message that you've got to get across tonight? His advisors around him. That you're tough, that you're tougher, that you're tougher than tougher than tougher, or that you're kinder and gentler, or that, in fact, you're wiser, politically speaking. Or you've got to give the impression, Governor, that you're the front runner, because you are. And so you've got to be a little bit more casual. You can't be as, hyped up. Let the other guys be hyped up, because you're standing back there and you're winning, you see. And all of this is going on and on and on and on and on. And then the television gets into the act, and the image is made. And the image hits the eye and hits the brain. And there are researchers and think tanks all over America, political researchers and so on, and consultants who are looking at this material. And the country is going down the toilet. The country is going down the toilet while this PR bizarro goes on. Because nobody is willing to blow the whistle. Blow the whistle on what? Suppose Obama stood up tomorrow and said, I've got the notes here somewhere to prove it, but I think I remember the figures, yes. 11% of members of the Trilateral Commission were appointed by Obama to his administration. 11% of the American membership of the Trilateral Commission were appointed by Obama within, 10 days of his being elected and saying that he was independent? This is a different administration. This is a revolution. This is hope and change. We're not going to do good. We're not going to do government the same way. 87 members of the Trilateral Commission exist in the United States, and 11% were appointed by Obama. This is Jon Rappoport sitting in for Alex Jones. We'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere. Rappoport back sitting in for Alex Jones on the Alex Jones Show. You can look at my website, nomorefakenews.com, for some of these stories I'm talking about here and other material. We're talking about the Trilateral Commission, which is one of the elite organizations on the planet. Many of you know about it, formed in 1973 by David Rockefeller, basically to bring together Western Europe, U.S., and Japan. Now has expanded. The statement was to create a new international economic order. That was the founding statement. Now, here we are in the middle of, presidential campaign. Obama has not swung into gear yet, but he is connected because he's appointed 11 of the 87 trilateral members in the United States to posts in his administration. That's pretty incredible. There's only 87 members of this commission, which is a completely globalist force, okay, designed to eliminate national sovereignty and borders, to change the nature of money, talk about the cashless society, to control governments internationally. And he's got 11 of these guys out of 87 members in the country in his administration. Tim Geithner, Secretary of Treasury, National Security Advisor, General James Jones, Chairman of the Economic Recovery Committee, Paul Volcker, Director of National Intelligence, Dennis Blair, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this needs to be covered. I mean, I'm kidding? Needs to be covered. Absolutely needs to be covered, because that's why no candidate is going to step up during this campaign and say, I oppose globalism. I want to end the super international control of America or of any nation, because that control involves destruction of the people, co-option of the resources of the country, and enslaving the population over a long-term basis, and allowing mega corporations to run free and roam the planet, to be exempt from any of this until they become the only existing centers of, quote, light in the darkness where anybody can find help. Strange kind of help, eh? In a society that is going increasingly down the tubes, poverty-stricken, because those are easier to control. No candidate is going to step up and say that, because in those terms, I mean, candidate with a significant chance of winning who is a front-runner potential in their party is going to dare to say that. Certainly not in these terms, because that's blowing the whistle on his own masters, and that's what we've got to get straight here. It doesn't matter which way we go. Cashless society in Sweden, that's an operation. That's not just Sweden deciding, oh, we'd like to go cashless. No, that's, look, world, we can make it work, and so can you. And now you can be completely watched and tracked and surveyed, and you will be under the loving eye and massaging hand of globalism throughout society. We will track where you go. We'll know what you buy, every penny. If you try to hide anything from us, God forbid, we'll know. We'll bring it to your attention, and we'll take the money out of your account and put it where it should be. You know, we're money managers. That's what we're doing, folks. We're going to manage your money for the rest of your life, right? That's where we're heading with this. People like the Trilateral Commission want to create a new international economic order. Well, that's where we are. This is Jon Rappoport. What about the CIA spying on you through your refrigerator? We'll get to that right after the break. This is Jon Rappoport sitting in for Alex Jones in the Alex Jones Show. We're in the third hour here. And we're going to bring in Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, naturalnews.com, who